if somebody gets to your back in a street situation, they got their hooks in, they're starting to rip on chokes or ripping on your face, how do we get out of that situation? Now, the reason I want to emphasize for the street and not necessarily sport is if we're talking sport, I'm okay to kind of hang out here a little bit and kind of just stall. If he's trying to like submit a choke, right, I can just kind of sit here and answer the phone and I can chill and kind of just wait and kill time. When we're talking in the street, which again, this can very well happen, somebody locks onto this grip, gets like the rear naked choke, and they just start choking out. We have tons of videos of this, right? I need to get out of this position and back to a top position, or even better, to my feet as quickly as possible, right? So if we kind of come back up here, first things first, when we're getting into these positions and as they're starting to kind of like rip you back, I need to start hand fighting. That should just be day one stuff. Anytime somebody gets their hands on your neck, I'm hand fighting as much as possible, trying to prevent them from getting any sort of grip or choke around my face. Even if they don't get the choke and they grab around, like say my jaw, right? If he rips up on my jaw, he may not choke me out, but if he's strong enough and he has a good position on there, he can definitely do some serious damage, right? So I just don't want any of this to happen. As I'm protecting and dealing with all this stuff, if we haven't necessarily fallen back or fallen to one side yet, one thing that I will tend to do personally to prevent them from being able to really kind of lock on to anything is I will plant my feet, drive up, and I will really start kind of just driving into them like this. Now, obviously, yes, I'm exposed to everything that's going on around me, but we're focusing on one-on-one. I'm, one, putting a lot of pressure on him to breathe, and two, if he does start kind of getting chokes, it's a little bit more difficult for him to really lock it in and get it secured. But as I'm dealing with all this, now I have to choose which side I want to fall down to. So in this case, if I'm looking to fall to my left, I don't necessarily just want to fall here, because I still have to deal with these hooks. And if I fall here right away and he immediately starts hipping in and stretching me out, it's only going to make it that much more difficult to get the hook. So whatever side I decide to fall down to, as I'm, again, hand fighting, I want to try and get some form of a grip, whether it's at the knee, the shin, it doesn't matter. And as we fall, I'm not only going to clear with my hand, I'm also going to kind of extend my leg a little bit. And as I extend that leg, I'm just looking to get my leg and my hip over. Again, basics jiu-jitsu for escaping rear back control, right? And then from here right away, if we're talking a perfect world, I'm going to, again, plant up on my feet, and I'm going to start driving, walking my shoulders up and trying to get my ass up and over his knee as quickly as possible. At this point, if we're just talking strictly, let's get back to a top position, then I can immediately look to kind of switch my stance. And as I switch my stance, I'm going to drive up, and right away I'm going to drive and get to some form of a top position. Now, yes, I could end up in a guard, I could end up in a half guard, I could end up in side control. It all just kind of depends on how we land. But the premise is I'm clearing, I'm defending my neck, I'm getting my hips off to the side without a hook, and I'm immediately turning and coming back up into it. If we end up falling to the side and I don't have the hook cleared, that is something that we are still going to have to try and clear as much as possible. But again, what is the bigger threat? Dealing with the hands or dealing with the legs? Well, the hands are obviously going to be my bigger threat at this point, because one, if he starts throwing punches or something from the hands, I do have to shield and protect myself. Yes, I could try and throw a couple punches this way. It might be a little effective. It's not necessarily going to knock him out, but again, it doesn't hurt to throw a couple, and then again, I can still shield up as he's still trying to choke me, do whatever I need to do, right? But during, again, this whole process, the entire time, I'm still trying to clear, bring that leg out, and get my hip up and over at all costs. Now, if for whatever reason it's just not working out, I can't get any of the legs cleared at this point, he's starting to stretch me out, it makes it a little bit harder, then I need to start focusing on the choking arm in this case, right? So the arm that's coming over the top here, I want to start grabbing at the elbow, and essentially what I'm looking to do initially is start driving that elbow up. And as he starts trying to pressure that arm back down, I'm going to work my head and shoulders underneath, and now I'm going to pull this arm and trap it as tight as I can to my body. If we're talking sport, this is a beautiful opportunity to set up a awkward darts choke and kind of catch them off guard. You may not get the finish from here, but trust me, if you start putting pressure, they're going to abandon this position really quick. Just a little side. But in the street, it's not what I'm looking to do. I'm going to hug this arm so that he can't choke me. I'm now going to position myself upright again like this. At that point, I should be able to clear this hook. And then again, I'm going to immediately hop my hips out, drive up into him. If I need to scoop this leg, I can. And again, I'm literally just trying to pressure myself back on top. It doesn't have to be clean. Again, we're just trying to get to a top position of some sort that I can pop back up to my feet. Now you'll notice that during all of these hip switches and turning back up that we're always turning towards the leg. The reason for that is that if I start, let's say I clear the hips, I clear the choking arm, and I start turning up towards the head, he's just going to come up and chase me and get the back again. You can go to the head, but if I'm going to do that, I want to cup it with the same side hand. So a lot of times if I am doing this, I'm going to reach up, grab the head, especially if I notice the head is just hanging out nice and low. I'm going to pull the head in, I'm going to grab with both hands, I'm going to switch my feet and go belly down and pull myself up this way so that all my pressure goes here. You'll end up in kind of like a north-south position, and then from there we just pop right back up to our feet. So you do have the option to go to the head. You just have to make sure that you secure and prevent them from being able to essentially chase you around. Now you do have another option to kind of stall out the position a little bit, and then we can work on getting our arm through and essentially, let go for a sec, essentially kind of getting the arm through this way and kind of going into like a body lock position. But we do kind of have to stall from this first. So again, let's just say we start falling off to the side. Maybe this hook is super deep. My first defense is gonna be then to clear this top hook, right? Once I can clear that top hook, again, I'm always going to be protecting my neck as much as possible until I can position myself. At this point, I'm going to look to kind of scissor my feet a little bit, and I want to pinch my knees together. My bottom leg, I want to kind of have driven out a little bit more, but essentially what I'm trying to do is put a lot of pressure here on his shin. At this moment, I'm going to now take the same side arm and work up to my forearm. Now, this entire time, if this person's adamant about just being on your back, they're going to try and pull you back down. They're going to try and climb up and choke you, whatever the case is. What I'm doing with this leg pinch here is preventing him from being able to climb up, because as he tries to climb up, he needs this leg to move out this way so that he can get that angle. Well, if I'm pinching and keeping it tight, he's physically not going to be able to move. Now, in addition to that, as I'm posting on this arm, I also want to kind of shell my shoulder down a little bit, which also makes it a little bit more difficult for him to reach around and to actually pull me back, right? And then I can add in an extra layer by scooping and hugging his knee nice and tight. Now, this is a great position for me to lock it down and stall for a moment, but it's not a position for me to hang out. He can still punch me, right? And I can kind of block myself, but again, this is a good one if he's initially just trying to grab your head and pull you back. If I feel like I'm in a good spot and he's not really doing much else, I'm now going to switch my feet. As I switch my feet, I'm going belly down, and I'm taking that bottom hand that was posting, I'm shooting it all the way around, essentially to like a body lock, and we're gonna recompose on top. Another variation that you can do of this is, like, let's say we get into this position, I'm hunkering down, and he decides to kind of go for that SIPO grip again, just trying to lock onto me, right? I can now grab his arm, pull this arm in nice and tight as he still tries to compose himself. I'm again switching my feet as I come up. I'm bringing this arm all the way through. Whether I hook the leg, hook the body, doesn't matter. I'm back to a top position. No matter how you land, in guard, half guard, side control, doesn't matter. Do some strikes, do some damage, and pop back up to our feet. Nonetheless, somebody gets your back in the street. We have to keep in mind that our only goal is to get out of that position and get back to a top position as quickly as possible. We're not looking to hang out. We're not looking to dilly-dally and just kill time. It's not a competition. It is somebody's on your back in the street, squeezing your face as hard as they possibly can. And guess what? They ain't gonna stop just because you tap. So do what you need to do, get to a better top position, and then from there, we do the damage, we get to our feet, and we get out of there. Stay safe.